Hi there, John Moore here, and I'm a spiritual teacher from Maine in the US, and I want to answer the question, what is esoteric? Or what does the word esoteric mean? And I will talk about that in relation to spirituality, because that's where the word comes out of. So let's begin, let's dive in. The word esoteric is a Latinized form of the Greek word esoterikos. I may not be pronouncing that exactly correctly. But esoteric comes from esoterikos, which was a Greek word meaning from within, or within the inner circle. Okay, and this word came about because you would have Greek philosophers or religious folks or whomever who were teaching to the initiated, people who belonged to their school, who were their students. And they would also speak publicly. And there's a word that you may be less familiar with called exoteric, EXO, meaning outside, in the outer circle, or outside the exo, meaning out. An exoskeleton is a skeleton on the outside of your body. You don't have one of those, at least I don't think so. But some creatures, some invertebrates have exoskeletons, right? So why do we have this word? Why does this word exist? And it's frequently used to mean things that are occult or hidden. There are many spiritual schools of thought, religions, spiritual systems that have inner and outer teachings. Christianity happens to be one of those. Islam happens to be one of those. Judaism happens to be one of those. You can look for, sometimes they are not part of the same school, really, as the exoteric aspects, but there are inner teachings and outer teachings, and one generally has to be initiated into the inner teachings. If we look at mystical schools of Christianity, Islam, Judaism, we have things like Gnosticism, or even inner circles within, if you are Catholic, for example, you go to mass, you go to church. That is exoteric, right? That's the exoteric aspect. But there are conclaves in which only very high-level members of clergy, such as when they choose the new pope, and that sort of thing happen, and things that go on in the Vatican that are esoteric. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're doing something untoward. Esoteric doesn't mean evil or bad or whatever, and things aren't necessarily hidden away just because they're doing bad things. Right? Very frequently, words like an occult especially is used in reference to, by people who don't know, in reference to devil worship and human sacrifice and things like that. That's not what it means. Okay, it just means hidden away. Why is this stuff hidden away? Well, for one thing, many spiritual systems are extremely powerful, and there may be a power sharing thing where the elites, if you look at certain churches like the Catholic Church that has a pope on top and cardinals underneath, and many layers till you get down to the normal folks, there's a power structure in place, and they don't want to share power with the masses because that's not the way to maintain power in their view. Okay, so there is that. There are also teachings that are beyond the understanding sometimes of the people on the exoteric side, or you haven't been initiated to receive certain teachings yet. And so there are magical orders, for example, and you have to do a lot of work to rise up through the different levels of these magical schools. And the reason for that is you're doing preparation work. So you think about it, like I taught martial arts for a couple of decades, and there are quote unquote black belt techniques or black belt understandings, or things that if you tried to explain them or tried to teach them to somebody without a lack of conditioning, without a lack of understanding, could actually be dangerous to that person. And the same is true sometimes for spiritual things, or they're just not understood because it takes a great deal of study, a great deal of learning, and a great deal of work. So esoteric refers to teachings, practices, doctrine that are available to an inner circle. Going back to the mystery schools of Greece, in which you had to be initiated into these schools, although many, many thousands and thousands of people were, but you weren't just, hey, here's everything we're doing out in the open. No, you had to go through processes to, prepare yourself to receive these mysteries, to be initiated into these mystery schools. There's a real lack of that today with a lot of things we do. Like, I can go on the internet right now and download sacred texts from almost any tradition. I can take up practices from, I can try to take up advanced meditation practices from Tibetan Buddhist lineages that I have no connection to, because I can read their documents that have been translated. Am I going to get much out of that? Probably not, because I don't have an instructor. I haven't been through the empowerments. I haven't done, 20 years of work that, most people in the religious sector have done to get to that place, to train my mind, to train my spirit, to train my various soul parts, that sort of thing. And so, while some things are esoteric to maintain power, some of them actually are for the protection of the uninitiated, or just the fact that you'll be wasting your time if you try some stuff and you're not prepared for it. Right now, though I have decades of martial arts training, if I tried a, because I haven't participated in a martial art like this in ages and ages, if I tried a jump 720 spin around butterfly kick to take somebody off a horse, I am much more likely to hurt myself than to do anything like that. Even though I know what it looks like, I've seen, people demonstrating techniques like that, and I have an understanding of the physical process to do something like that. I don't have the conditioning to do that. I never have. It's not been my thing, my area of study. Spirituality is no different. There is conditioning in spirituality that happens through practice, through meditative practice, through doing certain rituals, through training the mind, through training the attention, through working on the energy body, moving energy through the channels, through doing, certain types of spiritual work, making offerings to deity, that kind of thing. If that's missing and you're trying to do some advanced practice without any preparation, maybe you won't hurt yourself, but you're probably not going to get much out of that. There aren't, unfortunately, in my experience, there aren't very many shortcuts here. There are what we call wise shortcuts, things like getting with a teacher and forming a mentoring relationship so that you can learn and practice and be guided in what you're doing. That would shorten your path to getting to where you're going, rather than trying to do it all on your own or put together some kind of self-learning program. But there is no, I'm going from point A to point Z and not going through any of the steps in between. That doesn't happen in my experience. So anyway, that is esoteric. That is what esoteric is. That is the meaning of the word esoteric in the context that it came out of. And I hope that's been helpful. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel, and I will talk to you very soon.